Telegram.
Welcome back, everybody. Temple Daily Telegram Sports Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving, right?
Tis the season.
Does anyone have plans, or is it just covering football games?
I think I might have a little bit of turkey in between games.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
Yeah, we're all going to be out someplace on Friday night. Little Thanksgiving Thursday break, sort of, and then back out on the prowl. Looking forward to it. Josh Weaver here. Greg Wheelie over there.
Here, present.
Daniel Zepeda.
Hello.
Marcus Hood.
Howdy.
Ooh, he went with howdy. Great. Nice job.
Always a classic.
Yeah.
It's Texas thing.
Yeah. We started with 13 teams in the playoffs in our coverage area. We were down to 5 after the bi-district round.
Including Lampasas.
That's right, including Lampasas.
Go Badgers.
Yeah. So it was a tough first week of the playoffs for our teams that we cover. Starting with Temple, which was stunned by Mesquite Horn. Belton went down pretty handily to Rockwall, and then we had some other teams fall by the wayside in the first round. But fortunately, we still have some work to do as far as the football season goes. So we have Yo versus Diboll at 6 p.m. Friday in Madisonville, and that's a 3A Division I area round game. Also, 3A Division I, Troy versus Franklin, 7 p.m. Friday in Waco. And in 2A Division I, Holland against Wallace Brazos, 7 p.m. Friday in Giddings. And then in 2A2, Granger against Levias, 7 p.m. Friday in Poteet. And then that Lampasas, who we referenced already in this podcast, and might have been the quickest and possibly the first time we've said Lampasas. Lampasas versus Lavernia.
Now we said
in
it 4A1.
Yep. Got to get it in there when we can.
Yeah.
Lampasas.
But we're not going to badger you about it.
No.
We just mention it up top.
Yep.
So you know the Badgers are still playing.
The big rematch.
We're all going to be at 4 of those games. Daniel's going to be covering Yo. I'm going to be covering Troy Franklin. Greg gets Holland. Cool.
Haven't been in Giddings,
That's
Texas to cover a
That's
game in
great.
about 15 years. Covered a Cameron Giddings game there one time.
All right.
Land of the Buffalo.
And Marcus gets to cover Granger. Right on.
All the way down in Poteet, Texas.
Yeah. Yep.
Solid.
Poteet.
Strawberries, right?
Hey, make sure when you
Almost
put
Strawberry
into your maps, make sure it doesn't take you to Mesquite Poteet.
I know the difference.
Okay.
You're gonna be closer to Mesquite to begin with, right? And then
Probably, yeah.
and then travel all the way down.
See, it's
to
going to
Poteet.
try to take you to the closest Poteet.
But that's good for our readers to know. There is a difference between Mesquite, Poteet, and Poteet, Texas, where George Strait was born.
Cool.
Land of the Strawberries.
And they got a strawberry.
We already
festival.
said that. Daniel brought that up.
He did.
He was first on that.
Thanks,
Greg
Daniel.
was just,
Just making sure you
interrupting.
If someone didn't tune in for last week's podcast. Yeah.
Oh, he said it like about 2 minutes ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was writing down notes, sorry.
Yep.
Where have you been, man? You're sitting right there. Come on.
Onward.
Yes. Well, and before we get onward, let's go backward
Okay, backward.
for a minute. Temple set itself up for what it wanted in the first round of the playoffs. They wanted to play at home. They wanted to play a team that had a losing record, and they got that, and then they lost. In a back-and-forth game that went down to the wire, last seconds, Horn scores a touchdown to go ahead, and then Temple had a chance with a Hail Mary in the end. That was knocked down, I guess. But tough one for the Wildcats there to swallow, especially after a great start to the season. 8-0, and they finished with 3 straight losses. It's a tough way to go out for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's a very strange ending to the year. I mean, Temple, the last several years, I think 4 straight years played into December and, played at least 4 games and went to a couple state championship games. So that had kind of become the norm in Temple. And, of course, some people statewide might point out, well, that was in 5A. That's not 6A ball. And, Temple acquired some haters around the state for, I guess, perception is part of it. There's some reality there in how the last week of the season went. But, the key is, you get into the playoffs, you're in 6A, you're either going to play one of the state's very best teams, which they could have played in Longview, or you're still going to play a dang talented Mesquite Horn team, which, trust me, this Temple was not overlooking Horn or thinking this was going to be an easy game. Sure. I think they knew going in how good this team was despite the 3-7 record, and Horn did not disappoint when it came to how potent they were, athletic, talented, tough. It was a score fest, 45-38, but Horn had a really good rushing defense, which made Temple kind of a one-dimensional passing team in the game. And like I said, Temple's defense just totally broke down. Gave up 613 yards in a 48-minute football game, which is and they did it pretty evenly split between the run and the pass. So it was, an uncharacteristic game for Temple's defense, but you got to give most of the credit to Horn. Their quarterback, Givens, was very electric, just running, passing, third down, weaseling his way out of sacks. So he made the plays happen. And like Stewart, the Temple coach Scott Stewart said, Temple didn't tackle well, had a lot of silly penalties, bad penalties, face mask at the end of a long run or, an offsides in a bad situation. So, Temple kind of deserved what it got. It didn't play well enough to win.
Yeah.
Even then, you're tied 38 late in the game. You give up a touchdown pass with 11 seconds left, which is basically a missed tackle at the, point of the catch and then a 37-yard run, basically. So it's just a very disappointing way for Temple to end the year, but you have to earn everything come playoff time, and they didn't get it done.
Right, and kind of the same goes for Belton. Tigers kind of crawled to a finish here at the end of the season, losing to Midway in the regular season finale there with a chance to get a piece of the district championship and a home playoff game, and instead they got to go to Rockwall, and it was 7-7 midway through the first quarter there, and Rockwall just goes off for 30 in a row into halftime, and the game was over from there.
How come no one was accusing Belton of losing on purpose to Midway so they could go play Rockwall?
Yeah, right. I don't know if that was the case because it also meant that if Belton had the winner of that Belton Rockwall is playing Allen in the second round.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure the Tigers weren't.
See, Belton was just trying to dodge Allen.
Right. Yeah. Tigers were itching to get up there for sure. But definitely a tough way for Belton to close out the year too. First, losing Carruthers at starting quarterback. Ruben Jimenez, he did a fine job. As a sophomore coming in all of a sudden late in the year, and having to go into the playoffs and 2 big games right in a row for a kid who was just trying to get into the offense. So they'll have him coming back. But the Tigers defense gave up 50 plus in the last 2 games of the season, and the offense wasn't there to kind of help that, which it has been able to do at times this season, scoring 86 points one day, 63 the next.
There's a big difference between allowing 38 or 42 and still having a chance to win the game compared to allowing 50 or 55.
Yeah, and Rockwall had 3 or 4 really talented players on offense. Everyone else just kind of complimented them. The receiver Smith, he had 3 touchdowns in the first half, 190 plus yards receiving, something committed to Ohio State. Their quarterback got it to him all the time. Those 2 basically, that was the connection right there every time, and then the running back was solid as well. But Belton just didn't have enough here at the late part of the season to get any further than what they did. And I'm sure I know they're disappointed, because they kind of felt like they had something going in the right direction there. But still 7-4, not a terrible year.
Lost to all good teams.
Yeah, right.
Really.
Everyone. Yeah, they definitely they beat the teams they were supposed to beat, and they beat them handily. But like we've talked about before, Belton's still looking for that big win, that signature win that's kind of eluded them for the most part over the last few years.
Just one comment on Temple is that, that defense that gave up 613 points the other night, well, that was a defense that had 10 senior starters on it.
Yeah.
And guys who have pitched shutouts in district and had a lot of good defensive games, but Roman Jackson, junior cornerback, he'll be the only returning starter next year.
Wow.
And he didn't play in this game because he hurt his knee against Copper's Cove. But, so next year Temple's going to have, basically replacing your whole defense. There will be kids who have played in games and maybe made a spot start or mop-up duty, but it's going to be a brand-new defense. The good news for Temple is, you're going to have Anthony Jackson back at running back, Quentin Johnston at receiver, Montavian Carlisle, and 3 of your top linemen. So it'll be kind of about 6 returning starters. Vance Willis, the quarterback, who was a junior this year, he's a very good runner. We'll see if how good of a passer he is compared to Jared Wiley, but a lot of big holes to fill for Temple in the offseason. And they said they have a very good group of younger players coming up, kind of a weak junior class as far as numbers, but helps on the way. But next year might be a bit of a step back for Temple just because that defense is going to be
yeah. That's kind of the case for Belton as well. Sam Skidmore has said over and over again how he's enjoyed this senior class, and it's not just because some of the numbers, especially offensively, that they put up. But just in general, had an enjoyable time coaching them. So Belton senior class definitely be missed.
Those receivers
Over there, yeah, the four receivers.
Yeah.
You mentioned Brightside. I mean, Brightside for Belton is Ruben Jimenez. Got in some work in some big games, and he's back only a sophomore. He'll be a junior next year. But the question is, who is he going to throw to? And I'm sure that's what Belton's going to be trying to figure out. Their offensive line was relatively young. I think they only had 1 or 2 seniors who rotated in and out there. Defensively, they're losing some key pieces, both their corners, some defensive linemen.
the safety is back though.
Yeah,
Real
both
good
of their
depth.
safeties
Yeah.
will be back. But losing a bunch of linebackers as well. So, it's going to be rebuilding over there too, but that's kind of how it is, almost every year. Those juniors and those sophomores this year have to, step up and move forward.
At least they got an easy season opener next year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Little at Westlake
Yeah,
action.
at Westlake.
Yeah. And Temple will be at Round Rock Cedar Ridge, so that
Yeah.
should be a cakewalk too.
Right.
We'll see.
Hey,
Yeah.
just to lighten things up a little bit, Greg, you brought up a few weeks ago asking about the merits of 4 teams in the playoffs. Hey,
Mesquite
if,
Horn.
if they weren't in the playoffs, if they weren't a 4-team playoff, we wouldn't be having this Temple Horn conversation at all.
I mean, super exciting for Horn, though.
Yeah,
I may have
really.
been talking more like down in the 2A
I
ranks,
understand.
smart guy, but thanks for bringing that
I
up.
understand, but still, it's 4 teams all the way across the board except for 6-man football.
Well, I'm sure Mesquite Horn was listening to our podcast, and that got him fired up for the
Actually,
Temple game.
But that wasn't true 1 versus
one of
4.
Rockwall's assistants
Yep.
came up to me after the game, and he said he listened, and he said, "Hey, you guys are doing a great job." So, to the other 38 of you listening,
Thanks.
you can come up to us and say we're doing a good job.
Thank you, Rockwall assistant coach. Best of luck against Allen this week.
Right. Well, so that was that. So long Temple, so long Belton until next year. But we got 5 area teams. We're going to touch on 4 of them mostly tonight who are still playing.
Because we've already touched on that pass.
Yes. we
I
did.
will say this about that passes because
Sure.
we don't know much about them here. But the last time they made the playoffs was 2011.
Okay.
Joy McQueen was the head coach. He left, and he is now back. He took a job at Line Passes this year as assistant principal. So maybe it's just a McQueen thing.
Could be.
But
Bringing the mojo back.
he's
It's a good name in coaching, that McQueen.
yeah. I don't even know if they're related in any sort of form. But
Steve McQueen.
oh yeah, the good Steve McQueen coaching job. But anyway, that's all I have about Line Passes.
Cool.
Go Badgers.
I appreciate that.
Hey, no
Thank you
problem.
for throwing that in there.
Joe McQueen, one of the nicest guys you'll
Right
ever
on.
meet in coaching.
Cool.
He's not in coaching.
But
Daniel,
still nice.
He's very nice.
Daniel,
Good guy.
Still a nice person.
you're going to go from your Thanksgiving festivities on Thursday to Madisonville on Friday. Is that correct?
That is the plan.
Yo and die ball.
Yes. I might just walk there just to kind of work off the turkey and pie.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
might just eat the pie while I'm walking to Madisonville. But
Nice. You talked to Yo coach Tommy Brashear this week. Is
I
that
did.
correct?
Yes.
What's he expecting out of the second round matchup?
Really, Yo is just, kind of back in regular Yo form as far as their mindset. They've kind of put last season's worries behind them. They're now, not finally, but they got over that first round hump, which is where they exited last year's playoff run. So they're officially putting last season to bed, and they're focused on the here and now. They've got Dieball this week. Dieball 10-1. Yo also 10-1 on the season. Should be a good match. The winner in this one will get either West, who is 8-3 on the year, or East Chambers, who is also 10-1. So a couple of quality programs. But as always, you get to the third and fourth rounds and so on. You're going to face quality opponents wherever you are. But the key really for Yo is to kind of clean up some of the things they haven't really had problems with this year. We talked, I guess we didn't, but last week, they got off to a slow start there against Whitney. Whitney took the first possession of the game and drove it right down the field for an early 7-0 lead. Yo did come back for a 21-7 halftime lead. And they actually scored right before halftime. Yo did, so that worked out pretty perfectly for them because they got the ball right back to start the second half. Unfortunately, not so luckily for them, their second play of the second half is a fumble recovered by Whitney. Whitney takes it on down for a touchdown, 21-14. Again, Yo's very next possession, they throw an interception, and again, Yo takes it in for a touchdown, tie ball game. So 21-21, midway through the third quarter, you're the top seed going up against a fourth seed. You're a little worried, but that veteran leadership that this team has, wanting to make sure that last year's officially gone, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. It's really stepped up. They outscored Whitney 28-7 the rest of the way. So on paper, it looks like a blowout win, but it was a pretty contested ball game for, a lot longer than most people probably realize. So obviously, with all that said, Tommy Brashear wants the Yeomen to come out a little more enthused. He thought they were pretty sluggish, so he wants them to come out a little more ready to play. They got to clean up the turnovers, which all year long, hasn't really been an issue for them. They've been good about holding on to the ball. But obviously you're going to want to clean that up when you get to this level of the season. He thinks that the passing game really could have a lot of impact on this game. He thinks that Dieball really likes to just run the ball. They've got a good running back who he's not going to break off a ton of long runs, but he's going to consistently get you 5, 6, 7, 8 yard games every attempt. So they just constantly move the chains, put together long runs, kind of like Salado does. So the key is really to try to keep their offense off the field, because they'll just run the clock on you. You'll look up and pretty much 10 or 11 minutes are gone after one of their drives. So keep their offense off the field as long as they can. And again, going back to the passing game, Brashear doesn't think that they've seen a passing game as efficient as what Cameron has this year. With their quarterback, Braden Brashear, and he's got really two good options in Kadrian Hammond and Colby Young. They really excel in that part of the game, as well as their running game. We've talked about it all season long, how they're very balanced. So if they can take advantage of the running game, that's great, but the passing game is really going to be what might be the X factor in this game. Again, he said he wasn't entirely sure, but he's pretty positive that Dieball hasn't seen a passing game like Cameron's this year. So if they can keep Dieball's offense on the sideline, take advantage of the passing game on their own side, and then also on their own side just kind of, avoid a slow start in both the first and the second half, and then just avoid the turnovers, which, every team is kind of looking to do that at this point in the season. They should be good to go. They're not looking too far ahead, obviously, but again, they'll definitely be keeping an eye on the West-East Chambers matchup, see who they might get in the regional quarterfinals.
This is a Dieball team that was a Class 4A team last year. They moved down classification. It's also their first playoff berth since 2003.
Oh, wow.
So they're kind of, they've got a great record, but they're just not known for a playoff team. And last year, I was listening to some stuff earlier. Josh asked me what I was listening to, and I was listening to an interview with their head coach going into their playoff game last week, and he told his team, just go out there and play and have fun. Don't worry about this is your first time in the playoffs. Don't worry about the playoff atmosphere, because it's still baby steps for this team. And I think that's smart, because you're about to face a Yo team that is a powerhouse. So it'll be a good test for Dieball as well.
Yeah,
and it'll be, like Daniel said, it'll be a good one for the Yeomen. It could be the passing game.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
It's a pretty good mascot matchup too. Yeomen and Lumberjacks.
There you go.
You said 2003. Is that Jermichael Finley? Was it back when he was maybe still at Dieball? That played a tight end at UT and then in the pros?
Sounds good. I think Michael Finley might have been playing for the Mavericks back then.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that's a
nice one.
That's a long time in between playoff berths. Now that
really
there's
is.
so many playoff berths available, including 4 seeds.
Dieball's lone loss this year was to Franklin, district mate Franklin.
Segue.
Yeah, exactly. Which is playing Troy Friday night. Winner gets Grandview or Woodville. Grandview knocked out reigning state champ Rockdale last week. But Franklin is just a few years removed from a state title appearance in 3A Division II, I believe. What they were back then, maybe? I think so.
yeah.
Was that the game that followed our
Cameron,
Yo,
Yo,
and
Brock? Yeah. Yeah. That
game
started at like 10:30 p.m.
Ended about 2 a.m.
Yeah.
here in Houston.
Yeah. But, Franklin obviously having another strong season. The Lions actually were in the district with Troy the last 2 years. Realignment sent them in different direction this year. But Franklin went unbeaten last year in district and then bowed out to Teague in the playoffs in the third round. So Troy and Franklin have a lot of familiarity, and Troy head coach Ronnie Porter knows that Franklin is going to be running that slot T offense, and they're going to have to stop that enough and then put up some points. It's going to be a tough matchup, but Porter, has his guys confident for sure. Troy's having a great season. They're passing the ball a lot more than they had in the past. We've talked about that quite a bit this season, and Coach Porter believes that can help them in this game. But really, I mean, it's defensively, you have to be able to get Franklin off the field, and don't let him put together those long 14-play drives that take up 5 or 6 minutes or whatever off the clock. Did you
kind of similar to what Dieball likes to do? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's an intriguing matchup, and I feel like every year these Region 3 games, no matter what round it's in. I mean, think about Troy. They go 9-1 in the regular season, finish second. They win their first playoff game. They beat Teague, which is no slouch, and then hey, guess what? You get to play Franklin in the second round.
No pressure.
And then you go on, and it's like Grandview or Woodville, and the next round Woodville hasn't lost yet. Grandview's 9-2. So I mean, it's crazy how this goes.
I would think if you're Troy, though, having a pretty good working knowledge of what Franklin likes to do, because I don't think they differentiate what they do. I think you're going to get what you expect, and it's just, can you stop it?
Yeah, and Porter reminded me, because it was way back at the beginning of the year, Troy beat Salado, which runs a slot T, so they have some film on that. And then the last two matchups between Franklin and Troy have not been close.
Yeah,
Franklin has beat them 40-something to about 14 the last couple times. But still, I mean, you see it enough, maybe you can kind of learn some things eventually.
Well, I was going to say that season opening Troy-Salado game has been a pretty good forecast of success for the season. I mean, last year Salado, I believe, shut out Troy and played 14 games, 13 games? I mean, they had a long season.
Regional final.
14 games, and then this year Troy wins that game very impressively, and here they are playing a 12th game. So, and then Zach Urbacek on your side this year too, in a big role.
1,800 yards rushing.
Yeah,
sophomore. I was at that Troy T game last week, and he is impressive. He cuts really well at the line of scrimmage, but he also knows when to follow those blockers as well. And Cosper throws a pretty nice ball. As well when needed. They were down briefly against Teague 21-20, and Cosper threw, I think it was like a 29 or 34-yard, touchdown to Tyler Gerlich to take the lead back, and then Urbacek added another touchdown run to make that a 2-touchdown victory. But
29 yards on that pass.
I knew it was something like that. Troy's got some weapons on offense that can complement Urbacek. Bo Workman is really good at tight end. Big dude. They'd like to throw it short to him and let him run over a couple defenders. Sam Jones out of the backfield is another option as well.
No turnovers for Troy last week.
Right, yeah, that's true. Yeah, they took care of the ball. They did get stopped on 4th down a couple times in the red zone, which didn't help. But, like I said, Porter's confident in his team. They've kind of, clicked, whatever that means, for a team. But they've done it, and, they're looking forward to this matchup for sure. But I think Ross Prim is how you pronounce Franklin's leading rusher, the fullback. He's got 1,300 yards rushing.
And that's usually an offense where you try to get really 3 guys going.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the other guys right now. It's in my advance that's running on Friday, but they got other guys who have 2 other guys who have at least 600 yards rushing, and their defense has only allowed 84 points this year, and 30 of them were against Lorena, and that was Franklin's only loss. So I mean, they've only allowed 54 points in 8 other games. They've only played 10.
It's kind of interesting how, like we've talked about, some teams where the quarterback makes everything go, like Mesquite Horn. Then you got some where Troy's guy keeps it on the rails and provides nice passing to go along with the running back. And then you face a slot T team. The quarterback is other than just calling the play, he really isn't a factor in what you have to prepare for. Because he's not a runner or a thrower. Yeah. So it's interesting, how the quarterback position varies in importance from game to game.
Yep. Each of these guys just stay in your lane.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of teams that have kind of stuck to what they do and have been doing it well all season, Holland. 2nd straight 10-win season, and I don't think that's ever happened in Holland where they've strung together 2 10-win seasons, 10-plus win seasons, however you want to put it.
Until now.
Until now, that's right, the last 2 years. And they're playing Wallace Brazos, which is 6-4 this year. But Brad Talbert's got those guys clicking there's that word again, offensively and defensively. I mean, 63-12 last week against Junction, and Marcus, you were there for that one. They called off the Dogs pretty early in that one, right?
Yeah, the starters were done before the half was even done.
Yeah.
And even then, Junction had trouble with them. Holland just, I think Brad Talbert, if you sat down and he was being totally honest, he would probably tell you this team had the talent to make the playoffs. But I pretty sure he'd be surprised if they're 10-1 because
Yeah.
I mean it's a young team. They were replacing pretty much everybody from last year except one or two key guys, but they look just so on point. And especially, I mean, Junction's probably not the best test for him. This was a Junction team that was a fourth place team out of that district, and not a great record, but but I mean it's still a playoff team.
Yes.
And it's still the playoffs, and Holland it was 28-0 after the first quarter.
Defensive, offensive, and special teams
Yeah.
touchdowns.
Yep, they were clicking on pretty much all cylinders. And makes it easier on a sports writer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this Brazos team is going to be a little bit tougher. I think Talbot will tell you it probably is, just because I think they put up a lot of points in some of their games as well.
Yeah, I think they're averaging 25 or so plus points, maybe. Not a ton. He did tell me that they've been rolling with the backup quarterback the last couple because their starter got injured.
That's helpful.
Yeah, but we talked about Franklin's defense being stingy. Holland's defense has been stingy pretty much all year. 13 points a game, only 176 yards per game. And Talbot was saying it kind of just starts up front with the defensive line, putting pressure on the quarterback, and then everyone just kind of flies around to the ball after that.
Yeah, those guys, I mean, they're beasts up there, and they open the lanes for their linebackers really to come through, which is a lot of times what a defensive line is supposed to do. I mean, but they penetrate and they get through, and I mean, I'm sure some of those numbers are kind of skewed just because, even last week, the starters were out on defense, and that's when Junction scored all their points.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's probably happened a couple of times in district as well. But,
right.
So the starters are probably, on point, maybe giving up less than 7 points a game.
Well, there was a couple games stretched during district where Holland didn't give any yards rushing. I don't know if it was back-to-back weeks or 2 out of 3 weeks. I don't know.
There was one week
hardly anything.
They gave up negative, right?
Yeah. They held someone to negative yards.
Yeah, they're like the 85 Bears.
Yeah, something. Yeah, they have their own music video now too.
Yeah, this is definitely a team that's kind of gone under the radar statewide, but they could really. I mean, if one of our teams, them and Granger, I think, probably have the best potential to at least make the region final.
Well, unfortunately, like how
Right.
Daniel said, Yo's not looking ahead. Troy also has said they're not looking ahead too, but Holland really shouldn't look ahead because the next round, I believe, it's Mason or Weimer.
Right.
Mason's number 1 in the state, at least in the last regular season Associated Press rankings.
Punchers.
Right.
Yeah, the punchers.
And that's kind of what happens at this point for the smaller
Well,
classifications.
in this region 4 is is loaded.
Yeah.
Once you get to the third round, I mean, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, if they get past this one, it's going to be tough. But they're gonna. I mean, they played Refriero last year in the third round, and you never know what's going to happen. But
Holland would have at least a puncher's chance against
oh yeah,
Mason,
for sure,
don't you think?
for sure. I mean, at
But-
this point, they'll
Hey.
have a chance against anybody.
There was some booze coming in
Yeah.
from the background.
And the 11 wins would be the second most. If they win
Yeah.
Friday, would be the second most in school history.
Yeah, and Talbot's kind of
So-
got this team playing teams that are getting them ready for these
Yeah,
games. I
yeah.
mean, that's why he put the schedule the way it was this year.
Martin Crawford.
Right.
And
And they beat Thorndale by 1, which was a good win for them
Yeah.
too. So
And then you had mentioned it early, Marcus, real quick, but just it kind of surprised Talbot that the way his team's performed this year. I remember talking to him last year, and he said they lost a lot of guys, and that he still thought that they had the talent, and the expectation was to make playoffs this year. But he wouldn't have believed someone if he said they would have gone undefeated district champions. So this team's really stepped up with a lot of guys. So it's been fun to watch.
yeah, they've won 9 in a row now. Because Mart was Mart the second week of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they've won 9 in a row, and Granger's on a winning streak as well.
and I'm counting only 7 seniors on
Wow,
that
for
roster.
Holland?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's good.
and a couple of these guys,
Right. All 7 seniors aren't starting or whatever.
right. I mean, they're not your key players. I mean, they're definitely. I've seen their names before, but
Yeah.
Tucker Cargill out there, one of them, tight end, defensive end. He's definitely a defensive force. Bryce Bowling, he's definitely a big name that they might lose. But otherwise, I mean, some of their keys are just coming back next year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll hold on to Brad Talbot one more year there in
They might.
Holland.
Yeah.
Hot commodity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Granger shift gears to the Lions. A lot of Lions this week, but they're playing La Villa and Poteet.
La Villa.
La Villa, whatever. La Villa was the name. La Villa was the name of the restaurant in California where I used to get my ravioli.
Do you have to drive through Del Valley to get there?
Del
No,
Valle?
not unless you're lost. I mean, you could, but
I mean, is it Blanco or is it Blanco?
I don't know. It's just whichever you want.
Whichever you hear first.
Blanco if you ask the locals, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
but it is Levia.
Yeah.
Because
and it is
Levia-
Granger.
Levia started their football program in 1989 or 1988, and the only reason I know that was because they were in my district in Port Isabel.
Cool.
So,
And how'd that go?
we killed them.
Yeah.
I think they only scored like 6 points that whole year.
Oh, poor Levias.
Tarpons were tough back then.
Yeah.
Port Isabel.
Would always get knocked out like in the area. But this is not about the Port Isabel Tarpon, who have
Could
already
be.
been eliminated from the playoffs.
And that's when you had to be good to make the playoffs back then.
Right. After Tarpon's already gone, after losing to West Oso 58-57 last week.
I saw that.
Oof.
That was like West Oso's first playoff win in a long time.
Man, now you're just rubbing it in against my Tarpon.
It was just a coincidence that I saw that, like before we started.
Should have made one more defensive play. Maybe
Yeah.
could have survived that game.
All right, now that that's out there, let's talk about some Granger football.
Who wants to do that?
I guess I'll do it.
All right.
I will have the pleasure of talking some Granger Lion football. We talked about Holland's 9-game winning streak. Granger, 1 game better, 10 straight. They lost their season opener, but here they are, 10 games later, winners in 10 straight. So the big thing for Granger, last week they defeated Luis 29-23. A little closer on paper than I'm sure head coach Walt Brock wanted. Josh.
And the reason was?
The reason was Ryan Pickett.
One of the reasons, at least.
Yeah, one of their main ones. Their main running back, Ryan Pickett, he's rushed for over 1,000 yards, 18, 19 touchdowns on the year, so kind of a main guy for them. He got hurt in their regular season finale against Chilton. They're in the first quarter. He's got a knee issue. Brock is hoping that he's good to go this week. But if not this week, hopefully if Granger keeps on winning, that just improves his chances of coming back every week after that. So on paper, and even if you look at the stats heavily favor Granger. They had over 300 yards in that game. Luis, I think, had less than 200. But Granger, they put together a long drive, ended in a touchdown, except it was called back, so it was negated. And then Luis had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So the score could have easily been, as Brock said, could have been 36 to, what is that? My math is not great. 18, 17, so a little more lopsided had those two events not happened. But they face, Levia. We already mentioned it. They're 7-4 on the year. Levia likes to do a lot of things that Granger likes to do. They like to be multiple in all aspects of the game, keep teams' heads on swivels, a lot like the Lions do. So I think really this one will kind of end up being which team can be more diverse, which one can keep the other one guessing, who's going to take advantage of those big plays whenever they catch the defense off, not in the right coverage. So we'll see how that goes. And kind of like with Granger got off to a slow start too. Granger, they were in the postseason last year. They bowed out in that by-district round. But this team, for the most part, just doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience. That's something that Brock is really hoping this team can get as much of as quickly as possible, because they're graduating 13 seniors this coming year. So, those 13 seniors obviously mean a lot, especially to a smaller school like that. But if this team can get a lot of postseason experience in a hurry, that's just going to help them later on down the road. So obviously, they're at this point in the season. They want to keep going as long as they can and win as many games. But more than winning, it's just about getting that experience. He believes they have the talent and the dedication to put together a program that's going to be a contender for years to come. So you get that experience and you get that just that overall sense of what it means to play on the postseason stage. It'll only help you. But overall, Granger's confident going into this one, and I don't know, maybe they'll grab some strawberries on the way out.
Whoa. Yeah, Don. But Levia,
What's Levia's mascot?
they're the Cardinals. It's
Oh.
a pretty boring mascot game,
no
mascot-wise. Lions versus Cardinals.
It's no Lumberjacks.
It's no Lumberjacks
Yeah.
versus
Welcome
Yeomen.
to 2A football. A lot of Bulldogs, Eagles, and Tigers.
But, I mean, Levia...
Levia.
Levia is kind of a typical South Texas, Rio Grande Valley type team, where they have a big line. And the nice thing about this line, if you're Granger, is they're big, but they're not really all that fast, and they're very beatable. Granger's got some boys that'll just pound this line all night, just pound through them, right? So, and they've got they're kind of based around their quarterback, Ray Felix, I believe, but He's got a lot of yards rushing, I think, because he's had to scramble so much because his line isn't keeping guys contained.
Well, they just staying put at the snap.
Yeah, pretty much.
We don't feel like moving.
Right.
As a general
big and
rule,
we don't wanna
coming,
move.
you know.
as a general rule, and we've seen this, when a good team from our area plays a good team from South Texas,
Yeah.
the team from this area usually wins it pretty handily.
Yeah.
Even no matter how good the team from South Texas looked, record or stats wise.
Yeah.
That's and I don't remember last time a South Texas team really took it to one of our better teams.
Yeah, and the main reason for that is because a lot of South Texas teams just don't have the speed to compete with up here, and it's all about size down there more
Yeah.
than look at me. But it's
Gotta
It'll
get
be
that-
hard for people to do on the podcast. So.
We got to get that Facebook
Yeah.
Live going,
Yeah.
man.
no, people don't want to look at me, that's for sure. But yeah, yes.
Especially after a long day.
But anyway, yeah, it's they can't compete with the speed up here mainly, and that's the big reason why.
Yeah, I saw that. I have one example of that since being here was Yo against Mathis in
Yep.
the 2015 state semifinal.
Yep.
That was over 3 plays, and Cameron Yo just, I mean,
That was at UT, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
They served Popeyes in the
that
press
was
box,
that
didn't
was
they?
the easiest playoff game. I mean,
Yeah.
no offense to Mathis, but Yo had to go through the gauntlet of Region 3. I mean,
Yeah.
they played Grandview, Teague, Malakoff, and there was another one. I forget what it was the first round.
And remember,
but, I mean, it
Mathis
was
had
just-
incredibly impressive stats coming
Oh
into
yeah,
that
no,
game.
they had
I mean,
great
they'd run
rushing
the ball
attack.
all
Yeah,
over
yeah, no, it was
everybody.
yeah. I mean, they were a great team, but I mean, from snap one, that was just no contest.
It's over.
Their scout team didn't have any Trayon Smith caliber backs
no,
to give them a
Corey
good look.
Smith, you know, all that stuff. Iverson Westbrook. I mean,
Yeah,
they had
it wasn't their fault.
Yo was loaded
Just-
on
yeah.
offense, but yeah, I think we just covered it. We did it, guys. Marcus has just collapsed.
I was thinking about strawberries.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of berries.
Oh
never
no,
mind.
perfect. Well done.
Oh,
Marcus is referring to UMHB's second round playoff opponent, Barry.
what a
From
transition.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know that's what I was referring to. I was just
That's
thinking berries.
exactly what you were referring to.
I just haven't had dinner yet.
Saturday at noon at Crusader Stadium.
Eric's over there in the distance. He'll be there.
He's writing stories.
He knows they'll serve
Leading
him a
up to
free
that one.
meal up there.
Wow.
Wow.
Barry has only been playing football since 2013.
They might want to reconsider after
So
this
that is
game.
that is one hint that this might not be close.
The other one would be that they lost over the average in the regular season.
Oof. Well, Barry, I hope you like your stay in Belton.
Teams that come into UMHB for the very first time don't have a very high winning percentage
No,
of
no,
late.
No, not at all. You know, after that season opener this year, 91-7 at Albright, the Albright coach is talking to me in their local. He said, "Well, you know this this happens to teams the first time they play UMHB." I didn't have the heart to tell him it usually happens the second time too, but it's true. Yeah, you just you know. On film, it's totally different than in.
Yeah. I mean, just the speed. We talked
Yeah.
about speed earlier.
right.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest thing for UMHB, like whenever I've gotten to see them over the last few years that impresses me is how many points they score that aren't offensive
Oh,
points. Special teams, defensive
Right.
touchdowns. They are animals when it comes to getting those non-traditional touchdowns, and that's like such a key. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they're just game enders almost.
Yeah, there isn't a guy you can kick it to, or not a guy you want to kick it to, and then if they,
Aaron Sims is dangerous.
yeah, a little bit.
Cameron Yo,
Well, and the defense too. I mean,
monster.
the way they play, especially in the playoffs. Only been here a few years, but the last couple of years, I mean, that defense has shut down opponents. I mean, it's been huge in the playoffs, and I mean they've been doing it all year. But when it comes down to the season, you have a defense that only allows 7-15 points a game.
Well, and they've got about as big of a home field advantage as
Oh, yeah.
anybody. Man,
Yeah.
that's a great venue, and their crowd gets loud, and it gets bigger this time of year. I don't know, but the holiday
The
weekend,
Thanksgiving week
maybe
will
not
be-
as much,
yeah.
but I don't think that's going to be the determining factor in the game.
no.
Yeah.
Saturdays when people want to get back into town anyway. Want to beat that Sunday traffic.
Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh yes, thanks. You too.
You too.
Eric
And-
with a nice cameo this week on the way out
Yes.
the door. Thank you, Eric.
No problem. I'll be waiting for my call from ESPN.
And we better hurry up and end this so it's shorter than last week.
If it is, it'll be by a few
Yes.
seconds.
Thanks for listening once again. Enjoy the games.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Goodbye. Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.